Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And Olamide as well as Nelson Etta are standing by to bring us up to speed with what the papers are saying. Good morning, Olamide. Good morning, Nelson. What are the papers saying today?
Good morning, Ibrahim. Good morning, Veronica.
And good morning, Ibrahim.
Right, I could feel, your concern when you were discussing the tariff hike. And, we've seen a whole lot of reactions to this, even on X. Some persons are saying that the timing is rather inadequate. And very shockingly, or not so shockingly in that sense, we have that on almost all the front pages of the Nigerian newspapers this morning.
All right.
And well, we've seen telcos also saying the 50% hike is rather small, and it's not, in tandem with the realities. They're expecting a 100% hike. And so there are questions as to how this is really going to, affect Nigerians. But we'll just take it up from here, Veronica and Ibrahim. Let's see what the nation has to say this morning. Right, as I said, the nation is saying NLC TUC CNG rejects 50% telecom tariff hike. Labour says it is ill-timed, insensitive. Northern groups demand immediate reversal. And they say it's a good takeoff point. That's according to operators. FCCPC to monitor compliance by service providers. There are other stories here. The United Kingdom to sustain collaboration with Nigeria on democracy. That's a good one. The federal government has also spent, that to be 300 billion naira on FCT councils, says Wiki. Kidnapped suspect arrested after receiving 1 million naira ransom. On the bottom strip of the newspaper, Ekwere Madu's wife returns from the United Kingdom prison and Opolo recruits 500 teachers. But Nelson, you would agree with me that the biggest story on this newspaper this morning is, of course, the 50% telecom tariff hike.
Absolutely. And
a lot of reactions.
And it's good that we are going to be having the NLC chairman on the program this morning to talk more about what the Labour is doing to negotiate with the government, even though Labour has said this cannot fly. And like Vero was a little bit incensed about that earlier this
Right, that
morning.
would be the NLC president, right? Joe Ajaru, who will be coming to our office in Abuja.
Exactly.
But, of course, the interest of the people is what we are also, focused about. Our interest. That's
where I was going to.
We have the government and some of the things that she highlighted also talking about, the government being there to serve, obviously has to be in the interest of people.
Of course,
right.
Again, this is coming in the phase where there's a lot of hike in different items in the country. Electricity tariff has gone up by itself. Fuel here has gone up. The cost of food has gone up. Almost every other thing has gone up.
And it's also the timing.
Exactly. So all of that is coming at the same time.
Almost at the same time.
And it's the same persons that are facing the coming up of all of this.
Of course, the bug has to come back to.
In the midst of all this coming ups, if I'll use the phrase, right, income is not coming up. Right, salaries are still the way it is. And so you are expected to use the same amount you receive to live life on an increased tariff from all sectors. I mean, so this is where Nigerians are shouting. And so sometimes when the NLC and other, bodies are saying, government, let's slow down sometimes a little bit before we expedite the process of increasing. And now we understand from the government side, they're also trying to show up, finances, which is okay. However, the people upon whom you are showing up these finances, are they able to withstand what you're bringing to them?
Right, let's not forget that also all through last year, there were negotiations with the federal government and the NLC. I'm talking about the increase in salaries. And that's what we are seeing that, some states have started implementing the minimum wage payment. But the question is, how well is that going to, suffice to handle some of the economic needs of Nigeria?
Well, I mean, the minimum wage is 70,000, isn't it? Now, if I give you 70,000 naira now, what can it do for you? It's a question.
Oh, well, I also believe that, you know, the NLC, the TUC, then the CNG, and then very interestingly, like I mentioned earlier, the telcos are saying that this 50% is not even enough. Because, you know, they have to fund some other things. It's not in tandem with their realities in terms of communication. So how do we get reform of balance? Because these companies are also, you know, investors that also want to, you know, make profits. Well, obviously, not at the detriment of, you know, Nigerians.
Maybe if minimum wage is 500,000 naira, possibly, then the telcos can raise it to 100% hike. Maybe we'll be able to handle some of the things that are coming. But
I think you may need to have a one-on-one with the NLC.
I'd love to.
President at 8. Well, let's go to the next paper, and that will be This Nigeria. Let's see what This Nigeria has to say.
Again, the same matter right here. Labour spits fire over 50% telecoms. Tariff hike says corporate cartels being prioritized above citizens' welfare. Hike must reflect on service delivery. Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission tells operators. But at the top end banner of This Nigeria right there, Keyamo, the Minister of Aviation, queries 532 billion naira variation for Abuja Airport second runway. Well, the minister is saying the figures are not in, you know, not so balanced. So y'all come tell me exactly what's going on in here. Other stories right there. UI students protest 82-day power outage.
I mean, this brings me to our discussion yesterday, power outage at Federal Secretariat, that I also wanted to talk about, and I was like, how much more? And so, well, the students need power, of course, to, you know, study and all of that. And so, for those who have interest in that story, I mean, they should check it out, to know, I mean, the
but then there's something there
outage.
At the bottom of This Nigeria there, Kweremadu's wife returns to Nigeria after 3 years in UK prison. Some good news, I would say there, don't you think, Olamide? It's good news, isn't it?
Right. And for the Kweremadu's wife situation, you know, everyone has a second chance, of course. That situation was, you know, quite dicey. But, I mean, you also have the opportunity to pick up despite, you know, how bad it could have been. And our prayers, of course, are with, you know, her husband who is still serving his sentence. I believe the trial has run its course, of course. And so she's back in Nigeria. She can't pick up from where she stopped.
Exactly.
So let's go to the next
New
paper.
Telegraph.
And that will be the New Telegraph newspaper. On the New Telegraph, of course, is the big story, government abandoned masses, so corporate fat cats. That's according to the NLC. I wonder what that means. They are saying that spending 15% of salary on communication unsustainable, moves mobilization to boycott telecom services.
Remember, they did that mathematics based on the minimum wage of 70,000. So they're saying 15% of that is going to go on communication. Let's
not forget that even the minimum wage discussion, I believe there was an agreement, and this, you know, the format I would say that they used to, you know, calculate was based on a family of 4. And so let's ask ourselves, how realistic is this? Looking at the fact that it's also coming up where the NNPC is also increasing their benchmark, power also increasing. All of this, let's not
families are beyond 4, more than 4. So
let's not forget the financial implication also of insecurity.
Absolutely.
How well you have to also take care of yourselves.
The school fees,
I mean,
there's a whole lot.
There's a whole lot for Nigerians to actually go through. And food scarcity, federal government begins nationwide operation Clear Stores to serve farmers and other citizens. And of course, still on the paper, on Abuja Airport, Keyamo rejects 532 billion naira contract variation for the second runway. You've read that. Another story here is on the PDP crisis. Elected deputies asked anti-Damagum forces to quit, say they all contributed to party crisis. So for the PDP, at a point, I felt like they were, you know, a prominent force. They were actually, you know, more of a competition for the APC. But from the crisis that has been, you know, ensuing repeatedly for weeks, it's very important for them to ensure that, they also resolve the crisis state-wise and government-wise. So let's look at what the next newspaper has to say, and that will be the First News. Let's see what the First News has to say.
All right, very simple. With deputy dead, Turji faces military next target. Well, that is a very important story coming up in the security aspect there. This again, 962 arrested nationwide as police tackle crime surge. Again, Nigeria, Russia to partner on space tech and STEM agriculture. That's a way to go, really. This is again, federal government to launch aircraft manufacturing company in Nigeria. This is according to the Minister of Aviation, Keamo, right there. That's some really heavy good news. And then this is coming from the NUC, upgrades pharmacy, physiotherapy, optometry to doctoral programs. This is some major good news in that sector, because the persons there have been calling for this, that, so that doctors wouldn't look at us as people who are not so relevant in the medical sector. Ekiti Sharia panel hold first public sitting on disputes. That would be it for the First News.
All right, let's go to, that will still be on the First News. Let's talk about, this story which says, with deputy dead, 2G faces military targets. That's the next target. Now the deputy of Bello 2G is actually dead. There is a concern that he is also, going to be facing the next military target. That's a concern for security. Terrorism and Boko Haram and all of them, they are kind of like a hydra-headed monster in a northern part of the country. So you take this one out and something else comes up, or somebody else replaces that spot. And so sometimes it's a little bit tactical for a man in uniform to be able to handle all at the same time. So this is what is good. That's what they're referring to next, as it were. Well, all right.
I'm sure they'll be able to handle it.
We could also, compare that with the Hamas situation. I will still see that story also on Daily Independence. Let's see what Daily Independent has to say. And of course, on Daily Independence, the big story here is still on the NLC's response to the federal government stop 50% telecom tariff hike implementation. They've asked Nigerians to prepare for action to compel hike reversal. And CNG Kicks demands resignation of NCC boss minister. And a picture story there shows the governor of Lagos State and, of course, the High Commissioner, the Rwandan High Commissioner to Nigeria, receiving a plaque from the governor of Lagos State. Amotekun warns bandits, says Southwest not a safe haven. Another story here says, resign, stop demarketing the PDP. National officers tell their members. Oil market faces strong selling pressure as crude drops below to $80. That's another concerning story. Collective investment schemes increased to over 3 trillion naira in 2024. The SEC is saying that. FRC insists Nigeria not yet hyperinflation economy. Nelson, do you agree with that?
Oh, well, I'm looking at that. But let's get to the next paper, which is the Blueprint. The Blueprint here has quite a number of stories on it. Here has the headlines. Deportation, Trump okays raid on churches, schools and hospitals. Well, that's quite a number of issues there on his bid for immigration, illegal immigrants in the country. Again, WEF 2025, that's World Economic Forum. Nigeria global leaders target $29 trillion African economy by 2050. That's a tall order, but we have what it takes to meet that order. If we go downwards, the Blueprint paper there, we see 72 hours after eliminating Sun, troops closing on Turji, neutralize second in command, Kanawa and allies. This is as Governor Rada rules out negotiation with terrorists. Boko Haram attack Konduga community, kill one civilian JTF member. But I like this again, still on the Blueprint. INEC fixes FCT area council polls for 21st of February 2026. as gunmen abduct medical doctor in Anambra, and the DSS files terrorism charges against Madi. That'll be it from the first newspaper.
Right, and we still have this and more on the Leadership newspaper. Let's see what the Leadership has to say. Of course, on the Leadership newspaper, counterinsurgency war, troops closing on 2G killed the second in command, and 24 others have been neutralized. The kingpin is on the run. 2G's brother and others inflicted terminal wounds. That's according to the defense headquarters. Nigeria global leaders target $29 trillion African economy by 2050. There are hopes there. NLC condemns 8 billion naira for electricity bills sensitization. And on the right of the newspaper, that 9 pregnant girls rescued from Abuja home. Nelson, that's very concerning.
Well, I mean.
And to the FCT, we have spent 300 billion naira on aerial councils development, perhaps ahead of the elections. Ekweremadu's wife returned from the United Kingdom prison, and outside Nigeria, of course, Trump seeks raids in churches and schools.
Well, I think that's where we'll leave it for that paper. Let's move first to News Direct. And there's quite a number of stories as well there. Mixed reactions trail oil scooping in Mina, barely 48 hours after Diko tragedy. Multidimensional poverty pushing Nigerians to the wall. Nigerians must return to family values, abandoned greed, and reckless attitude to bida. Heart-wrenching. This is according to the Kaduna SSA on public affairs. This is on economy still here on News Direct. Wema Bank to raise 200 billion capital, or 200 billion naira capital for recapitalization, as NAFDAC seals warehouse housing over 75 million naira worth of expired product. I don't know why we sometimes keep doing this to ourselves, but thank God for NAFDAC and the ability to tackle some of these things that we see. Tariff hike approval, FCC, PC, task telecom operators to improve service delivery and infrastructure. I guess that's why they're saying, let's get to 100% of it. How Trump's economic policies will influence Naira strength forex inflow. This is from Dr. Muda Yusuf, our man on the economy, right there. Navy, Ogun government to flag off naval base dockyard, and the CBN to unveil forex code in January 28 to boost transparency. I think that's where we'll leave it for the News Direct.
And we have something quite different as the big story on the Punch newspaper. Let's see what the Punch has to say. On the Punch newspaper this morning, Kano Niger Republic Rail Project. Communities tackle the federal government over compensation for 3,252 owners. Project continues despite Nigeria-Niger tension. 5,531 persons dissatisfied with the compensation. Another story here. Owade puts traditional rights on hold, returns to Canada. That's very interesting.
That's his own stylish jackpot.
Wow. Group asks the Inspector General to probe a controversial video on Mohbad's death. That's a very sensitive issue. That's on the bottom strip of the Punch newspaper. And again, Anyanwu Ude Okoye clash over PDP secretary seats. On the right side of the newspaper, Enugu community celebrates Ekweremadu's wife return from the United Kingdom jail. Mass deportation, U.S. target churches, mosques, schools, and hospitals. On the top of the newspaper, oil exploration, Mossop Fort Tinubu's meeting, monarchs begin consultations. APC Labour Party back INEC on by-elections dismiss Falana's proposal, and troops closing on bandits leader 2G. They have also killed commanders and 24 militants. That's what we have on the Punch newspaper this morning. All
right, the next paper we want to consider is the Platform. The Platform Times, with a very disturbing top header there. Students beat teacher to coma in Kogi State. I don't want to say a lot on that. I mean, this is very heart-wrenching, but that cannot be the case. The security agencies should move swiftly to find out what happened and, you know, bring justice to that matter. Again, there are 14.3 million Nigerians victims of drug abuse, says NAFDAC DG. It's a fight that the NAFDAC has been engaged in for quite a while now, and so they understand what is happening, and I don't know why the number is increasing day by day. NAPTIP rescues 9 pregnant girls from suspected baby factory in Abuja, as Wema Bank targets 200 billion in final recapitalization phase. But there's another story here. Benue governor locks out civil servants for late coming. Oh my God.
I think I have more interest in that story as to why they came late to work, and the governor decided to, you know, take that initiative to ensure that they are early. We're talking about, you know, ensuring that civil servants, their welfare and all of that. They should also be able to work for that. Well,
but if it is 7 a.m., you ought to get there 7 a.m.
At 7 a.m.
Hello. Okay. FUNA produces 120 first-class graduate arts new academic programs. That's a very fantastic one right there in education. And COP raises alarm over alleged threats by Ogun governor, DSS intimidation. Well, all right, there's something pretty strong there. Let's quickly run down to the bottom of the paper right here. It says DPO faces probe for allegedly sleeping with teenage girl in police custody. All right, Adebutu seeks approval to reconstruct Isale Oja Bridge at Kutu Market, as Abiodun rewards Ogun Poly Best graduate with 6 million naira. Some good news. Lay School of Agriculture Foundation. Well, I mean, you graduated as the best
you just had to bring
master's holder from criminology
so
here in the University of Lagos.
I'm expecting something like that.
And your reward was a meager change. I don't like that.
Let's not talk about that.
This is 6 million naira here. I love this one.
You're embarrassing me on live TV.
Well, that's all we can take on the platform newspaper.
So let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Let's see what the Guardian has for us this morning. On the Guardian, costly by-elections worry INEC as IPAC demands credible polls. Doctors protest unpaid salaries, ground Abuja hospitals. That's very concerning. Still on the Guardian, economic crisis spikes malnourishment among 5.4 million kids. UNICEF warns 50% tariff hike insufficient, say telcos amid pushback by subscribers. And the Lagos State is also warning against sharing child pornography, threatens 14-year jail term. Nelson, that is a very concerning, concerning one, child pornography in Lagos State. But to Abuja, court sentences Abuja bishop to 20 years for rape. Tinubu has spent 300 billion naira on Abuja satellite town in 12 months. I want to believe that statement is made by the FCT minister. UCH students protest 82 days of blackout harsh environment. That's still on the bottom strip of the Guardian newspaper. And on Lassa fever, 22 deaths, 143 confirmed cases of Lassa fever recorded in 2 weeks. NWC insists on Damagum, worries over PDP's future. Let's see what The Hope has to say.
All right. From The Hope newspaper, court remands ex-civil servant, others over alleged theft and sale of children. Something again on security matters there. This is as Falana is making a statement here, says, by-elections wasteful, need reform laws, say INEC boss. All right. Federal government unveils digital tools to transform states. This is something I'd love to see, how the digital tools are going to transform our state. At the bottom of the Hope newspaper, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali form joint military force to fight extremists. Okay, red one right there. Suspected thief causes accident while fleeing with stolen vehicle. Of course, that's going to happen. I mean, you know. And finally, on the Hope newspaper, ODEC, that's the Ondo Electoral Commission, presents certificates of return to 2020 to 203 Ondo councillors elect. Wow,
Right.
wonderful right there.
Now, I think we should also, move to the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust is focusing on manufacturing. And the big story here says 1.4 trillion naira unsold goods recorded in 2024. Nigeria heading towards hyperinflation, according to our experts. FCT doctors embark on strike over 7 months unpaid salaries. NSCIA to federal government implement policies that will alleviate poverty. That's one of the concerns, of course, even on the tariff hike. And on security, military kills. Turji second in command. We've taken that story. Let's add one here in Kwara State as 15 die in Kwara auto crash. Still on the PDP crisis, Damagum cannot be removed until December. That's according to the PDP. On the bottom strip, NLC protests Telecoms Tariff hike, threatens mass action. Of course, that's the big story here today. Well, let's see this big story, which is by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, saying that 1.4 trillion naira unsold goods recorded in 2024. What could have been the concern there? Is it people did not have the purchasing power to get these goods? Or was it an issue of transportation? Or was it an issue of storage? And for those unsold goods, what has happened to them? There's
quite a number of factors that would lead to that, Olamide, but all of those you highlighted can also be, part of it. Purchasing power and, a lot of other transportation and so on and forth. But maybe this year man would do a lot better to ensure that their goods are not in stores but are out there for Nigerians to buy. And
then we see also there that experts are saying that Nigeria heading towards hyperinflation. However, another story that yesterday was also talking about the fact that we are yet to get to the hyperinflation. And so for experts saying that we are getting into hyperinflation, we need to ask ourselves, what are the things causing this? And it's good that, the president, the vice president at the World Economic Forum is trying his best to also, push out Nigeria. I think at this point we also need more investment. Indeed. But let's take the last
Sporting Life,
paper,
which is the last paper we'll be considering today. Sign Lukman over Ganacho. Well, this is something pretty great for us to see as Okocha denies seeking NFF board's sack. Well, if you don't want to sign Lukman, come and sign me. I'd love to be signed, for that. But I think that's all we can take on the Sporting Life newspaper.
Right, that's all we can take on the Sporting Life. But of course, I would like to hear Veronica and Ibrahim's opinion on that story on the Platform Times. The story on the Platform Times, which exactly? Is saying that, student beats teacher to coma in Kogi State. Veronica and Ibrahim.
That should never even have
What do you make of this situation?
In fact, it was one of the stories I had noted while you guys were speaking. It's a sad one. Are teachers no longer safe? Is that the issue now? The teacher went out to do his or her work and in the course of it lost his life or her life. May the soul of the teacher rest in peace.
Right.
Veronica, I'm remembering when I was a student, I went to an all-boys secondary school. You dare not even stand tall to your teacher, let alone lift your hands. How? From where?
Obviously, things are changing.
Apparently.
Well, so it's not part of our culture, because I know that outside here, I've seen a lot of videos on social media where, maybe in the West, where you have students assaulting their teachers, beating their teachers to stupor. But having this in our own country, Kogi State, it's actually, I don't know, I can't think about it. It's
a cause for concern, of course.
Really concerning. But we have to leave things here now. And Nelson, I'm looking forward to the NFL or the Super Eagles signing you up. Later on. NFL, right.
I wonder if I'll be on the pitch or in the podium.
Okay, we need to quickly take a break. When we return, we'll be handing over to our Abuja studio. Stay with us.